Hi, good afternoon. I only know a few people in the room, so I'm gonna introduce a few of my fellow committee members. Zina, who lives in Spokane, and then I have Victoria with me, and my name is Liza Narciso, and I work for your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. And when I joined our agency almost 20 years ago, I was one of their financial analysts. And I'm a person, I'm not really a speaker. I waited till I didn't have any more classes in college to take, like public speaking. I hated it. And my kids always tell me, like, I don't know. I don't know why you hate. How come it's not working?
This is why.
It's okay.
Blame John, he killed it.
Check.
Yeah.
Hold it closer to your mouth.
So anyway, they told me like, Mom, I don't know why you say you like speaking. You love to scold us. I said, yeah, because you're my kids, and there's nothing you can do about it. So anyway, I guess you can call.
No battery died.
I came to the United States in 1980, and the purpose is for me supposedly to I graduated college when I was 16 years old in the Philippines. I came here in order for me to keep my citizenship. The American embassy told me like, okay, before you turn 18, you have to step in American soil. And I'm one of those that, well, isn't the American embassy in American soil? And they said, not technically, you have to go to USA. So I came here, and then my parents told me, okay, go and explore what kind of college you want to go to. And way back in the Philippines, my parents told me like, okay, you're spending our money, you have to do what we want you to do. So independence was never in our vocabulary. So when I came here, I have cousins who were like, I guess there's the devil and angel. So they told me, hey, you're in America now, even though you're only 16 years old, you don't have to listen to your mom. We'll help you, we'll train you, we'll help you sneak out. So fast forward, I turned 19, and my mom like, okay, did you find a college you want to go to? And I said, no, I'm still thinking about it. So anyway, our next door neighbor was in the military. And she was a cook, and she glamorizes like, oh, the military, you know, it's like going to college. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be what you want to be. So I got really hyped up. So I told her, okay, sign me up. How do I do that? So she took me to the recruiting station, and then the recruiting station probably was so happy because I guess I'm one of the statistics, so she said, so why are you here? I said, well, I just want to see if I qualify to join the military. And then she said, well, you have to take the test. So I said, okay, I'm ready. Do you have time? I said, yes. So I took the ASVAB, I scored 106, and she said, you know what? You're just what I needed to sign up today. So anyway, I speak with an accent, so she said, so I need, you need to bring me your green card. So I said, can you tell me where I can buy one? So, I mean, like, I never know what a green card is. So she said, are you here as a tourist? I said, no, I'm here to live. So, but you just told me you don't have a green card. So how did you get to America? So I said, well, you cannot swim the ocean, so I have to take a plane. And then she said, okay, I don't think we're understanding. So how did you get here? Well, I got here legally, and I have a passport that says United States of America. So fast forward, I went to the map station the following day. I raised my right hand, and then I thought at that time that I could stay a couple of weeks at home and do some stuff, but they told me, said, okay, you're leaving tonight. You'll be at the airport. It's Braniff Airways, and this is in the dead of winter. And I live in the Philippines. I never seen snow. I don't know how it feels to be, in snow. So I told him, I was packing my clothes, and my mom like, oh, you don't want to live here anymore? And then I said, yeah, I do. So why are you packing your clothes? And I said, you have to take me to the airport. Why? Where are you going? And I said, I joined the military. And my mom turned so red. And then she told me, were you drinking or did your cousin give you some drugs? What's wrong with you? So I said, why? What's wrong with the military? And my mom said, they're gonna corrupt you. You're not gonna be my Liza anymore. You're gonna learn all these bad American habits, all those kind of things. So anyway, in the Philippines, I was very fortunate that my parents were very well off. So I went to school, the best money can buy. We had maids, I had chauffeur. So everything to me coming to America was really foreign. We were at the airport and I had 50 relatives with me. They were all taking bets on how long I'm gonna last. So I went to basic training, and that was one of my things that I said, okay, I'm gonna go. I don't wanna go home and see their faces like, I told you so. So I try my darndest to, stay motivated, and I was brought up. My parents always tell me there's no such thing as impossible in this world. Everything is possible, and you have to know how to get from point A to point B. They always tell me there's resources out there, so you need to learn to be resourceful, those kind of things. So fast forward, I graduated. I finished basic training. My drill sergeant was even surprised that I was able to pass my PT. And the one thing I will never forget is when we went to the mess hall the first day in the Philippines, we always eat with a complete place setting. And my drill sergeant said, PFC, you don't need all those utensils. I said, yes, I do. Don't you eat this way at home? And he said, no, you only need the fork. I said, at home we all use everything. So anyway, I joined the military, became a person, 75 Bravo. I think that's different now. It used to be personnel. And I met my husband. I guess I was too lonely, lost in the woods. And then plus the most to me was like, oh, I'm gonna be stationed in Hawaii, so you need to marry me so we can both go together. You can go home. So we get married, and at that time, if there's people here that joined in the 80s, the military was not very family-oriented or friendly. They always told me, hey, if Uncle Sam wanted you to have a husband, when you went to pick up your gear at CIF, they would have given you a man to go with your gear. That's what I was told. And fast forward, like, I got pregnant 3 years after, and at that time, you can stay in or you can get out. So I opted to stay in, and I was E5 then, and every time I do CQ, my runner would say, Sergeant Narciso, you cannot be having that baby today, tonight. You have to wait till you get home. So anyway, at that time, I worked until I was in labor. And I only had 28 days to stay home with my son. And unfortunately, when we were stationed in Hawaii, my husband's unit and my unit, we deployed a lot. But very fortunate because my parents and his parents both live in Hawaii, so they took turns in watching our son. And then when it's time for us to leave Hawaii, he was getting orders to go to Fort Benning, and I'm getting orders to go to K-Town in Germany. Yeah, so it was really like kind of hard because I really wanted to make military as my career. And my husband said, you know what, you can stay in and I can get out. And my parents and his parents was like, just go ahead, finish your term, 20 years, we'll watch your son. And I said, nah, I don't want my kids one. Because at that time, like, I'm a mother, a spouse of an active duty, and I didn't have time to think about those kind of things. Until I came to Washington and worked for DVA and Alfie. I don't know if any one of you know Alfie. And when my boss was taking me around our office, the first thing Alfie asked me is, "Are you a veteran?" And I said, "No, but I am a spouse of an active duty member." And then she changed her question. She said, "Have you served in the U.S. Armed Forces?" I said, "Yeah, I did 4 years active duty and 3 years reserve." And she said, "Then you are a veteran." I said, "Alfie, are you deaf? I just told you no." So, like, she educated me and she told me, like, go to our vet services and apply for benefits. I said, I don't qualify for anything. I just did whatever and I'm good. And I never listened to her until like I learned along the way. And I took the veterans benefits training online, and I became dangerous enough to know how to dot my I and cross my T. And at the first get-go, I did my own claim, and they always tell me that's the worst thing you can ever do. But I got 90% rating. And the best advice one of the benefits people told me is that he said, "Liza, when you're applying for benefits, you have to think like an artist. Because the person that's going to be rating you really doesn't see you. It's going to be based on the medical, whatever, and your story." So I followed his advice, and I was surprised myself. And I did my husband, and my husband was like, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm dangerous enough that I got I got this free money, so let me do yours. And I did his, and he has a 100% service connected. The reason why I'm telling this story is that there are not only women veterans, but our men veterans that are not coming forward to file their claim. I just got the report from the VA regional office. They send us a report on a monthly basis on how many veterans in our state that is collecting some kind of benefits, and we're only, I believe, at 20%. There's almost 600,000 veterans in our state. So it's only 20%, just imagine. And for women is 10% of that. So I always tell my family doesn't like to come up with me because they said, "Ma, you sound like infomercial. You need to stop that." Because like every time I go, you're in line in the grocery, I ask questions and I said, "Hey, are you connected to your benefit?" And the answer I always get is, "Well, there's really nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly fine. I don't want to take money from other people." And I always tell them, "No, you're not taking any money from other people. That money is yours." And Alfie always told me that the way our Congress, Senator budget money and each agency is the number of services that they provide. So if we don't come forward, then the VA is not gonna get that money. So you need to, like I said, stand up and claim your place in history. I mean, hey, we're part of the history. So this is supposed to be the chair of our committee session, but unfortunately, due to scheduling conflict, she's not able. So I just came back from DC. I went to the directors' conference and we heard from the horse's mouth, the hama 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 from the VA that what are they doing, all those kind of things. So I know the one thing that they were pushing is the PAC Act. Unfortunately, the sunset was, I believe, August 10th was the deadline because their computer crashed.
So it was the 14th, but you can always apply. It was just
Yeah,
for
but
back pay.
they don't guarantee the back pay anymore.
After that date, yeah.
Yeah, after
you can
that
still
date.
file.
So anyway, if you are a Vietnam vet, Desert Storm, Iraq, there's a lot of presumptive condition, and it's to me that's the easiest way to increase your rating or start your rating. So I highly encourage it. But the one sad story that I was kind of bummed is the VA had this big announcement that they were gonna change their vision statement to be more inclusive, but unfortunately there's a pushback in the Hill. And I'm hoping that our elected official is gonna come to their senses that, hey, we live in modern history now that even Department of Defense is allowing women and open up all the specialty to everybody. They need to get their program. Let's see. I was very fortunate to be asked by the House and Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs because nationally, at my previous life, I was the president of the National Association of State Women Veterans Coordinator. And the last one-on-one I had with Congressman Takano and Tester is that the one thing they asked me is, Okay, Mrs. Narciso, if we are your fairy godmothers, what would be your wish? I said, well, sir, I don't know what you guys are waiting for. It's a really easy fix. You need to change the mission statement of the VA, because I said, every time I see it, I walk in their DC office, I don't belong there. And I said, in my own state, when I go to the VA, they're looking for my husband. And when I tell them I am the veteran, and then they look at me very puzzled. And I said, well, what does a veteran look like to you? And they said, well, you're not a man, and you speak with an accent. So I would say, well, ma'am, you know what? You're welcome to my service. You have that freedom to speak what you just told me. So anyway, all I can say is that we are the best advocate for ourselves. If we don't come out and tell the VA they need to fix something, it will be it's not gonna get fixed. So we have to get our strength together and tell them that, hey, we serve our country. And actually, I think, let me back forward. I think I pissed off Mr. Takano and Tester when I told them, I said, sir, you need to remember why you are in office. Remember those veterans in your respective state who put you in power. I mean, you shouldn't make us like a political thingy or just one of those demographics in your thing. You have to live up to your promise. You promise something, that's why you're in that position. So I encourage you to, speak to your legislators. They are the one who has the power to change law. So if there's something you see, what you call that, you want change, like, hey, be that change. Be the advocate for that and rally. And here in our state, there's so many veterans that's, gonna come and stand beside you, hold your hand and say, yeah, let's do this. So anyway, like I said, I'm not a good public speaker. But
You did great.
I hope Joann, we got, Shelley told us, we're gonna be talking. I said, what? I said, I was moderating, not talking. So anyway, Joann is a better speaker than me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for being the icebreaker for the conversation we're going to have today. Because that's exactly what we're going to have today. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to change this just a little bit, because as she mentioned, the keynote speaker for this was unfortunately not able to be here. So I'm opening up the floor for conversation that needs to happen. Okay, ladies, as you all see, we serve too. These are all women veterans. So she started the conversation, and I want to ask that question again. There are two questions I always ask, especially when I see a lot of women in the room. How many women veterans do I have in the room? Please stand up. Please stand up. I would love to see all the women veterans. Thank you. Have a seat. Please stand back up.
Sorry, stand up again, please. No red dots. Okay.
Red dots.
No red dots. This is for posterity. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So the second question I ask is, how many women served in the military? Stand up again. So did I have any additional women that stood up after I asked that question? No.
But we're all
Have a
trained
seat.
though.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes. So thank you, ladies. Please have a seat. So I say that because oftentimes we walk into conversations, and I'm a conversation starter. As y'all saw, I was probably the person taking photos today. Now I'm starting a conversation with everybody else in here. We have advocates in here. We have veteran service organizations. We have nonprofits. we have veteran champions, thank you all for being here. But we also have women veterans that don't identify as veterans. And I'm gonna start the conversation. Why do you all think that is? Ma'am, please introduce yourself and here, I'll hand you.
Monique Barker with the Homeland Security Department, military, Veterans Military Families Program, thank you. How many women in here that are veterans have been told you're not a veteran? That's why. You didn't do 20 years, you weren't in combat, you don't have a
Hold the mic closer,
disability.
please. Hold the mic closer, please. Thank you.
You don't have a disability.
I know you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying that's what we've been told. Yeah, you didn't serve 20 years, you didn't have a disability, you weren't in combat, so you're not a veteran. So that's why women don't identify as veterans, because you might have at one time, oh yeah, I'm a veteran. Then you go to apply at the VFW or American Legion, oh, you're not a veteran.
So I might want to also answer with a question, why should we? I have at least 3 women that I know personally who served in the military, and they know exactly what I do. And none of them have ever asked about any of their military benefits, even when I bring it up. And for 14 years after I got out, I didn't identify as a veteran either. So my question would be, why should I? Why should I identify myself as a veteran?
Why don't you?
Oh, I do now.
You do.
I have license plates to prove it. I am not kidding. I have gone 2 feet in. I got the military support, WDVA, cemetery support, license plate, Air Force veteran. I served 6 years, and might say girl that, and I will drive that around all day long. And I have done that, and I've jumped 2 feet in. But what can I say? What can I do? Even doing that, I am a veteran service officer. I'm out here with my girl bat license plates, and I still know 3 women in my life who served and don't connect with anything veteran. Like, what is there that I can offer to them that would sweeten the pot?
So let me ask you this question. What was the shift from you not identifying before as the veteran to now identifying as a veteran?
I took up my own cause. Yeah, no, that's I took up my own cause. I became a VFW member. I became a VFW member. I fought through the Snickers as after we locally have a potluck on one side of the VFW where everybody's invited, and then the auxiliary stays on one side and the regular VFW members go to the other side. And as I walked to the other side, being already a VFW member, I had to fight past the Snickers of the, what are you doing on this side? And, oh, you're over here? Auxiliary meets over there. I'm like, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, that's good. But, so I had to personally do that, and then being involved in the VFW, I then took the next step to be involved in my local Veterans Advisory Board. And being involved in the local Veterans Advisory Board, I then took the next step to become the Veteran Service Officer. It was really an internal motivation to put a different face on what it means to be a veteran, so that I will show up to a veterans thing and they don't just look at my husband, who in my case is also a veteran, but they don't just look at him. And then I also ask the question when a veteran comes in my office that happens to be male, like, did your spouse serve as well? And I tried to open up that, and it was basically, I was like, I would have to put a different face on it. I did my serve, I served honorably, and I'm a veteran too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that goes right into, yes, I'll be right with you ladies, that goes right into the conversation that we need to have. So thank you so much for doing that, because I too am part of the VFW, and I did walk into a room where I was asked the same question. So it's time to reshape, rebrand, and reapproach how we talk to women veterans. Yes.
So going off of what you said about other people projecting on whether or not their service was valued, some of that's already internalized. They didn't need somebody to tell them that. Like, for instance, I served for 5 years as an Arabic linguist, but I never completed all of my training. I got held up with multiple medical things that were completely out of my control. I didn't just pop a brain tumor in my head for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
But I still, and so when I got out through the medical board process, It wasn't until after the fact that I realized that in many ways I had served. Even if I didn't necessarily completely serve in my capacity as a linguist, I had other female veterans or active duty service members at that point reach out to me. Specialist Atkinson, you are such a good leader. You made a difference in my life. So while I may not have served the military as a whole in my capacity as a cryptologic linguist, I served my fellow service members by being another female that they could turn to if they needed something.
My name's Victoria. I'm a VSO in Pierce County. I also work heavily with the transition program at JBLM, and I also am a female veteran myself, Army. One of the things that, to answer your question, why I see a lot as to why women don't come forward is how many of you that served ever felt a feeling of isolation in your units, right? And, you know, there is a severe lack of sisterhood within the ranks. Doesn't matter what branch you are. And so when we get out, that feeling of isolation comes with us. And that is something that we're trying to break down those walls and rebuild that sisterhood. But it's hard. It is definitely hard. Just know that you're heard. We hear you. Okay.
So my question goes out to the veteran resources.
Go ahead.
So I'll ask this question and I'll hear you out. My question goes out to the veteran resources and everybody else in here. How do you advocate for not just the women veterans that are in the room, but for veterans in general? So, yes, we do support veterans, but do we say it in word, or do we actually do it? Do we execute? Do we check the block? Do we check DEI? We say, yes, we support veterans. Yes. But do we actually do it? Do we actually live it? Do we actually breathe it? It's all in the culture, right? Yes.
Sorry, I promise I'll be quiet.
That's a conversation.
So to answer that question, one of the things that we've adopted is we are launching an all-female veteran resiliency group. And its first meeting is going to be on September 6th in Pierce County. But we are working on having it in other locations, Seattle, things like that throughout the next coming months. The goal of this group is not to focus on, a lot of times when there's groups for women veterans, it's MST focused, or it is mental health focused, or it is something negative, right? It's something that we've had to overcome. But there's never been a group where we get together and we just celebrate who we are and what we've experienced and supporting each other. MST is going to be a part of it, simply because that is what I am trained to be an advocate in. However, it is not the entire portion of the group. The entire part of that group is to create a safe space for you guys to come, share your stories, be surrounded by like-minded women that understand what you've gone through, and start building a community. The goal is to also get this on the web too, so that we can have people from all over the state join. So if you're in Pierce County, there's an Eventbrite, come on down, come see us, okay?
Fantastic. Thank you. So this lady back here mentioned that how does she get women who don't still identify as being a veteran on board onto that veteran train, right? How do we get people to understand? How do we get people to come on board? How do we get people to just connect? And that's one of them. Connect. You have to be a catalyst for connection, first and foremost, right? You have to have the conversations, crucial conversations, unfortunately, sometimes that most people don't want to have. Find a female veteran, have a conversation with them, see exactly what they're struggling through. And I'll be the first one to say too, transition from the military is not always the easiest, right? There are a lot of people who are veterans in here that have transitioned. Walking out of being active duty, walking into the civilian workforce, that is a huge transition. So oftentimes my question now, again, becomes how do you all advocate for, or how do you assist fellow veterans that are walking out of active duty into now your civilian workforce? How do you help them? Anybody?
When they're resistant to it, like your friend, I challenge them. So when they're resistant, like her friends, I challenge them to lead by example. It's like, if you're not going to do it for you, there's plenty of other people that are like you that don't identify that do need those resources. Sometimes you can lead them along that way and just challenge them to lead by example, because yeah, there's so many of us that, you know, unless we've seen somebody else do it, if we're not represented, we're not gonna go.
If I was a veteran and I asked her, I said, hey, where were you last night? And because we had our meet and greet yesterday evening here at Pipes. It was great. We had great chat, great conversation with a handful of women that I don't get to meet very often. And she normally is the one that's telling me to go places, and she's always championing for me to step into, hey, go to this vet thing, go to this vet thing. But she won't identify herself as a vet. So I called her on it. I said, but you are a vet. She goes, but you served 20 years. Yeah, I did just retire. You still put that uniform on. You still went through basic training. It doesn't matter how your service ended, whether it was like you because of an injury, you're still a veteran. So for those that are met with those challenging individuals that say, I'm not a vet, challenge them on that. Give them the reason why they are a vet. And sometimes they'll change their mind, sometimes they'll laugh at you. Maybe they'll come around once in a while.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yes, sir, please. Hello.
Good afternoon. My name is Will. Air Force Gulf War veteran and special duty assignment to the Pentagon, where I had the shock of being assigned to the team that wrote the policy that we all learned to hate, known as Don't Ask, Don't Tell. The organization that I work with, I started our Native Veterans Program and Two-Spirit LGBT Veterans of Color, and we stipulate that by name. We started this in the early days of the pandemic, and we're able to reach Native veterans all across Washington State. And for the first time, for many of our, as one had told me, femme-presenting veteran, was the first time they were able to gather with other femme-presenting veterans in safe space for just them, and we did this virtually. When we gather across Indian country in cultural specific events where they call out for like all the veterans to stand or to be recognized, all those same women, none of them stood. Because culturally, whether it be white culture or Native culture, you're not allowed. So this was beaten into many of my elders for generations, that women are to be quiet, do not speak your voice. And one thing that I've done as a Two-Spirit LGBT veteran of color is to work to change that narrative when I go into Native, specifically Native veteran space. And I have no problem standing up and calling out the elders when they are being disrespectful to all our veterans. And one thing that our organization strives is we take the gender out of it. A veteran is a veteran, no matter your identity. And for me, I think de-genderizing the term is one way to begin. So as was stated earlier, the mission statement, society does not live on gender. So why do we keep using those terms? So, I'm babbling, sorry.
One back there. Yeah.
I think sometimes too, hi, my name's Holly.
Hello, Holly.
I think sometimes too, it's not so much about not identifying as a veteran, but when you look at the statistics of retention rates, women it's very minimal. So somebody that retires, that's pretty outstanding in terms of how long women stay in the military. And I think part of that has to do, with harassment, the sexism, the abuse, and in working with female veterans and specifically handling MST cases and stuff, I think there's just so much pain and negative association. I'm proud to be a Marine, but there was also times of my service that were painful. And so when I got out, while I would still say if somebody asked me, I served in the Marine Corps.
I also just kind of left that as a thing, a job that I did, thing in the past, and it was several years later that I actually went and pursued seeking benefits. I mean, I did use my GI Bill, some of the things that are just kind of up front and there, but it wasn't a thing that I went out and did until recently, last few years working at the vet center and recognizing all of the good aspects of being in the military and the community that you develop and the people that you work with, and recognizing that was something that I missed deeply and had no idea until I was confronted with it. But in working with women, it's not so, at least in my experience, it's not so much that they say, well, I'm not a veteran. It's that that's just a thing they did, and it's self-preservation. It's a thing that you just set aside. So.
Thank you. This is why we have open conversation, because you all have hit on all the points on why a lot of women veterans don't walk up to you and say, I'm a female veteran. Some of us do. Some of us are very proud. Some of us will definitely tell you, and it probably exudes depending on our demeanor, how we talk to you, conversations we have with you. It shows a lot of us are veterans. But oftentimes, one thing I'll definitely ask for, one thing I'll always advocate for, educating. Continued education. Because at the end of the day, our civilian partners need it, our veteran partners need it, our male veterans need it, our female veterans need it the most. We have to keep advocating. Keep advocating, keep pushing, keep educating. At the end of the day, majority of them still don't know what they don't know. I meet older women vets all the time, especially through the WVAC, Women Veterans Advisory Committee. There are still many that still don't associate themselves as veterans. And trying to tell someone who's now 60 or 70 that you served, you are a veteran, slowly but surely they're finally coming around, but especially the ones who didn't take advantage of their benefits, or those who were exposed to Agent Orange, or those who now have cancer and now are in need of that health care, who some families are struggling because their parents don't have that health care. We have to keep educating and advocating. Statistics up here, as you all can see, as our former Director Alfie, I'm sure you're very familiar to many. That's statistics as of 2019. Nearly 2 million in the United States, female veterans. We're in 2023. We are probably way beyond past 2 million at this point for veterans.
We are.
Sadly, as Lisa already mentioned, we're only at 10% for veterans that actually file for health benefits. That is a very, very low number. Very, very low. All right, her story. Gives you a little bit of background. 2024 will issue orders featuring the prominent American women. For this one in particular, we're highlighting Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, an abolitionist surgeon, and also the first woman to receive the Medal of Honor. But just some prominent figures in history. Project design, different diversity. We already touched on this a little bit. We have a very diverse women veteran population, right? Do you all see, and I'm going to ask the VSOs and stuff in the room, are there any specific or unique challenges that women of color or women of different backgrounds, tribes, anybody that they face?
So specifically, I don't know if my other VSOs in here have experienced this, but specifically one thing that I have come up quite a bit is specifically for women of color, a lot of my officers, when they come through the transition program and everything, there's a stigma. I don't know if it's just DoD medicine, I don't know if it happens to be that specific hospital or wherever it is, but a lot of times they come from a background where they are told that they need to be a lot stronger than their counterparts and everything, and it bleeds into their healthcare. And so when they come to see me, you know, instead of having 10, 20 issues, they've got 5 or they've got 4, and we have to spend some extra time going through medical records and talking about their experiences and everything, because it happens all the time. It just gets pushed aside, and they're told that it's not valid, doesn't matter, can't happen to you, things like that. So
Anyone else? No? No one else? Just some facts. So women are the fastest growing group in the veteran population and make up 10% of it. We've already discussed that. Women veterans served across all military branches and divisions that are racially and ethnically diverse. Women vets are more likely than non-veteran women to have young children and to be of working age. And how many of us still work, even post-military? Many of us do, right? Still juggling life. Women veterans are only 1.5% of the women in America, meaning you may have to meet 69 women to come across a female veteran. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes. Our value. All right, women veterans, our value. I want to hear one fact from each one. Each one of you. What is your value? What are your values? What makes you you?
Faith.
Go ahead.
My faith.
Your faith.
Yeah.
Okay.
My empathy.
Your empathy. So let me rephrase that question. What were your values in the military that you still carry and hold true to yourself now?
Strength.
Your strength. I love it.
Resilience.
Your resilience. I love that one.
Compassion.
Your compassion. Yes.
Integrity.
Integrity. Look at all that.
Confidence.
Confidence.
Tenacity.
Tenacity. All right. I want to hear from my male vets in the room too.
Confidence.
Confidence. Yes. Both. More male vets in the room.
Integrity.
Integrity. See, I love that.
I appreciate just a different mindset, like a different approach. And you see it, you know, I know there's a lot of negative behind that, but there's a lot of positive behind it. You get a bunch of dudes in a room, eventually we all turn into monkeys, it seems like sometimes. And so like you introduce a female into it and all of a sudden people start actually acting professional or whatever because there's good.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
It's true.
It is, okay.
So I appreciate you all sharing that, and I say that because the same values you all held in the military, you're crossing over and bringing into the civilian sector, which makes the civilian sector and any organization that you're a member of that much stronger, that much more educated, that much more culturally astute, that much more diverse, right? What else would you all like to see in the civilian workforce? If you had a conversation, and I'm kind of fast forwarding this just a little bit, because this would have been a little bit later, but what would you like to see if you had a conversation with a brand new employer, someone who is not familiar with anything military? What would you say? What is the one piece of advice if you had to offer something to them about the veteran community in order for them to, one, understand the veteran community, two, be accepting of the transition and the different difficulties and or really struggles that we all go through? How would you advocate for the rest of your fellow veterans at home? Sorry, I have you running there, David.
Hi, I'm Michael.
Hello, Michael.
I always start out in advocating for the employment side that every veteran is trainable, proven trainable, and works harder than a dog.
I think that if I had anything to say to an employer is that they would have to be clear, direct, and offer structure.
Thank you.
Don't pigeonhole us. We are all unique individuals, just like all of your civilian employees.
I love it. Yes. Yes.
I love this question because this was my job in the corporate world before I returned to nonprofits. So I ran the veteran employee network that we had. And one thing that we kept, and we would get together all the veterans and bring together a list to our employer, doing exactly what has already been said, but also encouraging them to use our uniqueness to their advantage. We come with so much experience and knowledge. Many that have served overseas bring additional knowledge that's not necessarily culturally accepted here in the US, but from a corporate standpoint that has clients in other countries, you have a resource. Use the resource.
Thank you. Anyone else? What is your one piece of advice? A couple more folks in here.
Is there one?
Don't say you're veteran friendly if you're not actually friendly to your veteran employees. Don't.
Public service. I love it. Anyone else?
He raised his hand, but. Good.
Oh.
No. I don't want it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Candace said no. No, not Candace. So I'm going to read a quote, and it was pretty profound because I was doing a little bit of research last night since I was tagged. Tag communications, you're going to be the one speaking tomorrow, along with my fellow colleagues here. However, a female that was quoted, she said this: "My male counterparts returned from deployment and were viewed as heroes. I went to combat and came back to a country debating on if women even belonged in combat." So what does that say to you all? So we've obviously gone around and chatted with everybody, and everyone has their own perspectives on why female veterans, one, struggle to even accept themselves as veterans. Two, male counterparts are heroic. Female veterans have to fight now and wonder why they're being questioned on why they should go to combat. Do I have anybody have any comments about that?
I think because DOD had not opened the specialty to women yet. So supposedly, according to Department of Defense, women were not supposed to go to combat. So it's like, it is, like they talk about that on the Hill. So, even during the height of the 9/11, that was like, oh, how come that? Because I know my husband was in the first Gulf War, and the women in his company were looked at like, hey, how come you brought women? We're at war. So,
Zoom into my shirt.
I'm Xander Scarborough from Spokane, Washington. I joined the Army in 1976. After Vietnam, I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid from Okanagan, Washington, right up the road. Wenatchee used to be the big city for us. And I went off in the Army, and I was the second female aircraft fire control helicopter repairman in the whole Army. I didn't know that at the time, but after Vietnam, they had opened a lot of different jobs, so we were support. So I went to Germany the first time, and there were 40 guys and me in a platoon. Now people say, oh, that's good odds. Good odds for what? So, but I did have a Y sergeant tell me, there's lots of fish in the other sea, in the ocean, go to another company and date or whatever you're gonna do, okay? So anyway, I like Germany, I traveled, I did a lot of things, and then I re-enlisted for Fort Eustis, Virginia, and I wrote soldiers' manuals and technical manuals and things like that, and there was 100 guys and me in the clusters of all the MOSs in aviation. And I worked for civilians. Well, promotion points got down to 450, and if you're breathing, you can get promoted to sergeant. So I got promoted anyway. But we worked with civilians, and the civilians said, hey, we're gonna play civilian. I go, no. And I had 2 or 3 guys, PFCs and stuff, and they wouldn't follow my instructions. I tell, I'm giving you a lawful order to, just games. But nobody ever took me under their wing to leadership school or whatever. So I was there, and then the civilians and I had a little problem, and I changed jobs and did some other things. Then I came down in orders to go back to Germany. By then I'm a Heart Strike E5, 68 Juliet. And so I arrived in Germany and I outranked the other E5 in the platoon and the E6. And so they gave me all the deadheads to go to the motor pool and this is in 1982, to paint camouflage trucks, right? And we're supposed to be working on $3 million helicopters. And so they gave me all the bottom of the barrel, whatever you call it. And I would tell Private Smith to do something, and he wouldn't do it. And I would go to my boss. They wouldn't back me up. So it took me a lot of time. I got out in 1983. It took me till the 90s to realize that I was a veteran. Because what is a picture of a veteran in 1983? Peacetime, Vietnam had a lot of problems. It wasn't popular. I went to college. I used my JAD bill as a woman veteran, but I just didn't feel like a veteran getting my benefits. And so it took me quite a while, and I was pretty angry. And if you see my inactive ready reserve ID card, I look about like that. I was really pissed. Well, I have to say back there, they had the overweight program, as we all know, the fat boy program, and they were filtering people out. And so I lost the weight, and the major was taking everybody with him. So anyway, it took me a while until the Vietnam Wall, the traveling wall, came to Spokane in 1995. And I just had an Army hat, that's all I had. And I was helping people find names on the wall and different things like that. And this lady came up to me and she just, thank you for your service. First time I'd ever been identified in public as a veteran. And so I stayed there 24/7. I mean, I stayed there a lot of times just because there's, number one, sacred ground, these traveling walls. And it was like a place for me I was identified, somebody identified me. And up to that time, being the only female in the platoon, and I was upset about something back to Germany with my E6, and he's chewing me up, so I'm over here at the hangar, right? Kicking the hangar and grinding my teeth and not crying because, women are so emotional. And I couldn't express anything. They didn't support me. I didn't know what that meant until the 90s. They found out I was depressed and anxious, and my picture on my ID card, I carry that with me and say, this is how I felt when I got out, for lots of things. So through counseling and through getting my VA benefits and different things like that, they really helped me to identify. And so they sometimes say, Vietnam women, and I know some of them, we need to honor those people. But I was in that in-between. Then we had Gulf War, and I'm going, I'm a veteran, but I'm not a veteran, and all those things. And there weren't women around. When I got out of the Army in 1983, 8% of the military was women. You know what it is now? 19% of active duty military, not veterans. Active duty that's 1 in 5. I mean, 18% are women. And a lot more jobs have been open and stuff. So anyway, so what I had to go through is say, nobody helped me do my claim or anything in the 80s, and so I joined the Legion. Well, I had an experience with the DAV once, somebody said. I walked in the DAV in Spokane, went over here. I went in with the men, nobody greeted me, nobody said anything, it wasn't terrible, but I didn't go back, but nobody said anything. Now this was in the 80s. So a few years ago, about 12 years ago, I saw this guy at a senior wellness conference, and he was from American Legion. And because at the time, I was in during Panama and Grenada, so I could, 82 and 84, I could join the Legion. Now anybody can join the Legion if you've served 1 day since 1941, so that means everybody. But so I started feeling, okay, this is cool, I can join, I get to wear a hat and wear a uniform, and I like those kind of things. And I was the youngest one, I just turned 66. Now 12 years ago, I was the youngest one in the post. Learned how I do newsletters and I do all kind of stuff, and I got busy doing stuff. But we have to educate the men, we have to educate them. It takes time for process. I have a lot of these younger gals I talk to, well, how come we can't do this and this and this? Hey, it takes time. The women's lib movement didn't help me and during my time. And it takes time to society to change. And I guess one other thing I'll say is about, I'm on Facebook a lot and on women veterans pages, or I hear people, and this one gal says she went to park at Home Depot, right? She has a truck on there, and it has a bumper sticker that says Army, and so she's like a little thing like this, and she got out, and some old guy, probably an old vet, yelled at her and said, "You can't park there, that's for veterans." And so she gave them her a few choice words and went stomping off. I said, "Please don't do that. You're not making it easier for us if you're being a bitch about it. And so could you please just say, I served this, I did this, what did you do for your country?" So, I mean, it depends on where she's at in her life. I mean, I was pretty angry for a long time too. But I think it's really important that as you get healthier in your life, and as you see other people, that women are veterans too. And I didn't have any of that until probably the last 7-8 years, and be involved with the Legion. And then the committee that we are here is we have a table out here, is a Women Veterans Advisory Committee. We're from all over the state. I'm representing Eastern Washington because we kind of get forgot sometimes. And I'm a mouthpiece for that. But the thing is that what we want to do, and here's a, can you guys hand these out? This is a flyer that tells what the WVAC is to help women identify as veterans, to, give me one of those. I didn't write it. Connect women to their identity as veterans, change the public perception of what veterans look like, connect women veterans to their benefits, and connect women veterans to community. So 2 years ago, there was this, has anybody heard about the Women Veterans Day in June 12th? How many people have heard of that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, good. So we had an event in Spokane. They had an event in Tacoma, I think, was it? And then, so we had 2 different events, and it was great. 30 women in Spokane showed up at the VFW in Millwood, and we told story, had a place to tell our stories. Nobody interviews us at different things. I lived in Spokane for 40 years, and no reporter had ever saw my Army hat and interviewed me for anything. So anyway, then this year we had an event at the Vet Center. We had 35 women between ages 39 and 91. A lady who served in Korea was there. And we just had a blast, and we got to be women. And somebody said, "Can we have a potluck?" They go, "Sure, you organize it, and I'll advertise it." So I think, for me, what I feel in the 70s and 80s is that the Army took away my femininity in some ways. I wore combat boots, flight line, I didn't wear skirts and stuff except inspection. And the thing is I've had to learn myself personally how to be feminine and how to be tender and those kind of things. So that's what we're here for. That's the contact information on there. We have a quarterly lunch and learn video you can get on our email list, and we have different topics and different speakers about different things. But that's what our goal is, the Women Veterans Advisory Committee that's under the governor's back. And that's why we're here as a table, because we want to come and spread the word to other people that women are veterans too. So, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna fast forward through those last 2 because Zaina hit on a very, very important piece about inclusivity. So it's about the language that we use. So we're gonna do a pitch. I'm gonna break you all off, and I'm gonna ask that everybody kind of get together, break it off however you want to, and you're gonna have about 10 minutes. And I would like for groups, different groups, to come up with a pitch that if you were to pitch to a veteran, if you were to pitch to a veteran, what is that pitch gonna look like? What does that language look like? What does inclusive language look like for your pitch? If you are pitching to veterans and you want them to join your organization, you're talking to a female veteran, you are recruiting for, obviously a majority of you already do it, but now we're gonna do a collaborative effort here, and I would love to hear what you all come up with. All right, 10 minutes.
When you said you're gonna break us up, or you're about to make us look at
No.
You're gonna break me off.
Different
One, two. Go. You're gonna start to look like I'm gonna break you off. And break us off. Yeah, she said break us off. I'll get out, but I'm not getting back out. I want to be under group. Yeah.
language that was inexclusive of all.
This is my normal skill though. I get so outside. It's not hard to fit, but it's hard to draw. All this stuff. It wasn't until they came to check me out that I knew there was a women's here. We had our own fan. It's crazy. We had just under 12 years. We had that many amount of women show up, but it's just to have an organization start now, whether it's women or not, start showing in our organization, our mission statement is we serve
So that's something that I got feedback when I was working on it. They talked about the metrics and the idea of resources to veterans. But so they bring people in, you know, and they had the norm and that actually turned people off because now you're being identified, like you're being pointed at, like, oh yeah, this is for you. So it's like a very fine balance of like creating the message of like this is a normal thing, this is the atmosphere we create for us. Making it normal, but also saying like this is important that it's normal. I don't know if I'm articulating that right, but like not putting every special thing up like super highlighting it because that hurts a lot of people.
To piggyback off that, it's crazy because the way I'm our center, this year we've actually taken all these questions off just because I get that from all the so what we've done, how we run our stand-up is not necessarily the term stand-up is targeted towards homelessness. It's still pretty bad. It's not the whole team of concerned parties. But we also say stand down and benefit. So what we do is we open it to everybody. That way when you come in, if you're homeless, you know you're homeless, you're going to talk to them. But it's not at the door where we're talking this close, next person's right here. Saying, I'm homeless, because sometimes when you get homeless, but you don't look homeless, there's always not that look to it.
I'm gonna say, you said, like, so I was in Vegas, and I had my luggage, and the guy, I was upset, and the guy said, it's okay, I'm homeless too. And I'm like, I wasn't homeless, right?
I'm just
like,
upset.
yeah, and I was like, okay, you know, and so what does homeless look like, right? You know, so, and homeless can look completely different to a lot of
I understand what you're saying. That's this is the first year without those questions. Those identifying questions. You're welcome for you to come get services. Whether you utilize it or not, I can't make it. But I guarantee you, you got a flag saying homeless services here. Just so, okay, if I'm not one people to understand that I'm homeless, I can go in. do my little things and be able to talk to somebody, make sure it's like that.
Well, that's why something like this is really hard because like the pitch doesn't, like, I'm a dude, so I can't, but the pitch doesn't work. We love women, come work with us, or like, that doesn't,
It doesn't do anything. Like, rates in barriers, rates that
but it has to be represented, I think, you know, it has to be just like, it just has to be happening and seen, like, more comes
before we start trying to
Exactly.
more has to be happening.
Very much still in military service, and it's not you know, the last experience, a man who's outspoken, he's strong, right? A woman who's outspoken, right? Like, you can label them in certain ways, right? And it's a statement that your sex is different, right? Gender is different. Right? And it's just breaking these societal norms that have been going on for generations, right? And really, I think we're starting to see that because now there can be recognition of
Veterans, which some people think, okay, that's men, but women and men. Less of a pitch and more
We do the
like
same, we do the same in clubs, so yes.
We did that in our office, we have 2 VSOs, we fought to hire a female just because she was a female to represent, and I don't like this.
Yeah, we need you talking, sorry.
Oh, and so when we were doing cards, we had separate cards, and we decided that everything we do, because we travel a lot, we're always together. They originally put my name first, and so like I was like, no, let's flip that, like let's make it more, you know, we're trying to catch a population that's underserved in our area, so any way we can lean towards that, we should do that. And hopefully it's worked. We don't know, but
All you can do is keep advocating,
that works.
Reconnecting.
I think it's
rebranding, rephrasing. Thank you.
So one of the things that we talked about was how important language is, and just like you mentioned with the phrasing of the question, the phrasing revolving benefits entitlements. Or when you bring up, well, you signed a blank check. Well, those are kind of loaded with some stigma there. So saying, well, did you enter a contract with the United States government? Well, that is a reciprocal agreement that the government is required to provide you with certain programs, such as the GI Bill, that can help your family or yourself. And then that opens the door to talking about how improving quality of life, as opposed to talking about things that are outside of the veteran's comfort zone at that moment, but it can get them sort of down the pipeline.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So it's not really a pitch, because I got a million pitches. But some advice to those that are looking to get women veterans more engaged. The best advice I can give you is a simple statement or a simple question. Tell me about it. Those 3 words. That's it. Tell me about your service. Get them talking. When you come at them from an angle of you're a veteran and you have all these things that you're entitled to, they don't believe you, because they don't believe that they're entitled to anything. Because when we get out of the service as women, we become wives, we become mothers, we become career women, and we leave the service behind a lot of times. Get them talking specifically about their experiences while they were in. Doesn't matter how small of a detail it is, but I have found that those 3 words, tell me about it, I've had the most success with. So let them talk, let them lead. It works.
I just want to piggyback off of that.
I 100% agree with that statement because generally in life, when we think back to our childhoods or past times, it's generally said that the bad things fade and the good memories stick, right? But for females who have served, who have struggled and survived sexism, sexual trauma, whether it be from harassment or assault, the bad memories don't fade, they leave scars, and the good memories fade. And so you forget the good times. And for me personally, like back to the very first question you asked, why didn't I identify as a female veteran? I didn't want to be a veteran. I didn't want to be associated with that because I no longer identify with who I was and how I reacted to those situations. And it took a long time. It actually took up until this year when I started going to school and surrounding myself with other veterans and starting to talk and remember that there are good times to remember. And so, yeah, that statement is extremely powerful, and I think that is going to be extremely powerful in all of your guys' services with both sides, female and male.
Yeah, it works for men too.
Because I also want to say too, we were talking, about this discussion, and I'm a very big advocate for females, but also it triggered me. Something that came up was that my stepdad is a 20-year Navy retiree who will not apply for his benefits, apply for disability, and he most definitely is rateable. And he says, I don't need that. So this statement is powerful both ways because something that the military does to us is that it teaches us that we need to be strong and we can't ask for help. And when we do ask for help, that makes us weak. And that is not true. And that is a stigma that we need to get away. And so when you get a veteran talking about it, the good times do come back and they do stay and they do outshine the scars. But it just takes that connection.
Thank you so much for sharing, Candace. Thank you all so much for your time, for your energy, for your advocacy. Let's rebrand, reshape, and rethink how we approach certain things. If there's a new way to do it, pass it forward, share it with anybody else who can benefit from it. And I absolutely love conferences like this where we can collaborate, share best practice, share what works for you, pass it on to the next person, and keep it moving. Do I have anything else? Do I have anyone else that wants to share?
So hi, my name is Nicole. I'm with Senator Murray's office, and I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of what you said, only because I've sat in on the WEVAC committee hearings, and I know that a lot of the pushback that I've heard from the women is they don't want to relive their story, right? And they're constantly told, let's talk about it. And so I think for some, reliving that story and that trauma is something they wanted to leave behind and have chosen to leave that behind. And so when they're constantly told, like, what's your story, they feel like, okay, I'm gonna step back now because we're not focusing on the future, we're not focusing on the good, we're focusing on the trauma that led me to not wanting to talk about it anymore. And so I think that it's important to understand that there are a lot of women on that side of the aisle as well.
Thank you.
What about just quick really thing before we get out of here, but don't wait until you have a woman on your team or in your program or wherever it is to start showing appreciation. I didn't know until this May when the WDVA came to Yakima that there was a Women's Veterans Day. We had a all-men team. We didn't realize it, I didn't know the information. But we show appreciation towards the World War II veterans, the Korean War veterans, any type of the combat veteran, but that was never seen in Yakima, something for women's veterans. And without a woman, none of us would be here. And so what we did was we just started trying to get money together and had a barbecue, which at the vet center, just because the county didn't have the space, but we funded the stuff and we just found a place. And we had about a little over 20 women veterans. And for Yakima, that's huge. That's more, I serve About 700 veterans in our stand down, and that's more women veterans than we have ever at a stand down. So I think the last year we had 17 women at our last stand down, and we had more at this little barbecue. I mean, I got a grill from my grandpa's house. It was a little this big. I mean, we just came up with something quick and we had it, and it was great. But don't wait to show the appreciation. If it's like our team was all men before last month, and we didn't know how to, we didn't know what to, but we just did something. And so don't wait until they have that woman that's advocating for the women to show appreciation for women. So.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ray. This gentleman back here.
Hello.
Hello, it's actually kind of a question to the group, and I'm gonna be here for the conference, and if you have time, if you think of something, I would be really appreciate to get feedback. As Holly mentioned, I'm an employment specialist. I've been working and helping veterans get employment for over 9 years. And I've helped hundreds of veterans return to work, but I've not worked with a single female veteran. So I recognize that this is a problem, and I'm very interested to hear what can I do to make myself more open and more inclusive for female veterans, so they know that they can come to me and get the supportive services that they need. And I know that veterans, that ladies, you guys can get work, and much faster than men because you're way much more on it. You have very good skills. You follow up. You call people back. You do all the things that I would coach these men to do. But it's just very odd to me that I have not worked with a female. So I'm very interested in that. So if there's anything you can think of, I am out of Cowles County.
Oh, okay.
Out of Kelso area, way down there.
South.
Down south. But any kind of advice or information that you would have, I would love to hear it. Holly came up with a very good point of putting female before male. I love that. And I'm definitely going to look at the literature that I have in my office and make those changes. So just throughout the event, if there's stuff that you could suggest, I would love to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dan. Do I have anybody else? Anybody else? Any closing thoughts for this evening?
So next year we are going to have women veterans.